Every week, someone, somewhere, has something for sale, and the best way to find a buyer is to advertise. There are many ways in which this can be done, but one of the best is to advertise in your local newspaper. In this film, we trace the story of such an advertisement and see how it finally appeared in the County Press, the newspaper with the largest circulation in the Isle of Wight. The item we want to sell is a toaster, so the first thing to be done is to prepare the advertisement for submission to the newspaper office. It can then be phoned through, posted, or handed in over the office counter, whichever is the most convenient. Such an advertisement is known as a classified ad, and its cost is calculated at the rate of 4p per word. Larger advertisements are paid for by buying space in the newspaper, and are rated according to column width and height. The largest available space would be a whole page, costing £340. However, to return to our own advertisement, it is next passed on to the advertisement clerk, who records the details in a ledger. From there, it goes to the intertype room, where it is placed in its appropriate pigeonhole. This room contains 6 intertype machines, reproducing written advertisements into metal slugs. Here, a machine operator takes the advertisement and proceeds to convert it into type by tapping away on a special keyboard. The keys release small brass modes, known as matrices. Each matrix bears a different letter, and in the process they are channeled through the machine until they come to rest in a complete line, the exact width of a newspaper column. The lines of matrices are then transferred to the moulding part of the machine, where hot molten metal is pumped into them. When cool, the slugs of type are ejected, side by side, onto the type tray. The used matrices are then conveyed back along a distributor bar, where they are automatically sorted out and dropped into their correct storage channels until they are used again. The cooled slugs of type are now taken, together with the customer's copy, along to the proofing department, where they are inked up and proofed. A pull of the advertisement is now passed on to the readers, who check it with the copy for mistakes, such as spelling errors, etc. Larger advertisements, too big to be cast on the intertype machines, are set by hand by the compositors. The large headline type for these and column news headlines are set on this machine, which is known as a Ludlow. It works on the same principle as the intertype machines, but the difference being the matrices are set by hand in a measure known as a printer's stick. This line of matrices is then inserted into the machine, and again a slug is produced. Our classified ad copy has now left the readers and rejoined the type, which is now in the hands of the page makeup compositors. Their job is to sort out the various advertisements into their correct columns under appropriate headings. This is done on galleys, which are in fact metal trays. When sorted, the compositors then slide the columns of type from the galleys onto a metal surface, where they are assembled 9 columns to a page. The completed page is surrounded by a steel frame, known as a chase, planed down level and flat, and then locked up. A page proof is then taken. The printed pull is now examined by the advertisement manager, who has a final look for errors. When the page proof has been passed as correct, the page then slides onto a mangle molding machine. A flong, which resembles a piece of damp blotting paper 30,000ths of an inch thick, is placed in direct contact with the type, and together with a molding blanket it passes through the machine. Under great pressure, the metal type is pushed into the soft flong, so forming an exact molded replica of the page. The areas that will eventually appear white in the newspaper have then to be packed with felt, so as to stop them picking up ink and printing when on the press. In order to harden the indented image, the flong is now dried. It is then cut to the required size to fit the plate casting machine. A final drying at a temperature of 600 degrees centigrade, and the flong is ready for casting. Molten metal, consisting mainly of lead, is used for making the plates, and is pumped out via a spout into the mould at a temperature of about 630 degrees centigrade. When cool, the plate is taken out and the flong separated from it. The type is now in relief, but in reverse lettering. It is then placed into this machine, which planes it to the required thickness and length. It is now ready to be clipped into position on the rotary printing press. Up to 32 of these plates can be printed on the press at the same time, thus producing a 32-page paper on one press run. The paper used on the press is British-made newsprint, and 4 of these reels, each weighing half a ton, are run simultaneously. They each feed a 49-inch wide web of paper into the machine. After passing over a series of steel rollers, the web finally emerges from between the first set of impression and plate cylinders, where it produces a printed image on one side of the paper. It then proceeds to the other side of the machine, where it receives its second impression, so that now the paper is printed both sides. The web of paper, still 49 inches wide and containing 2 pages side by side, is cut on a slitter, and one half then folds under the other. These 2 webs, together with the other 6, all collect together at the folder, where they are then cut and folded to form a single copy of the completed newspaper. With all the plates clipped on the machine passed as correct, the foreman engages the button on the control panel and the press speed begins to increase, so starting the run of yet another weekly issue of the newspaper. The press run commences at 8:15 every Friday morning and takes approximately 4.5 hours to complete the 34,000 copies. The press, running at almost 14,000 copies per hour, produces the papers already counted into quires of 20. Over 8 tons of newsprint and 1 hundredweight of news ink are used on the run. Upon delivery, the papers are taken to the packers, who count them into quires according to the requirements of the various newsagents. They are then stacked to await collection by the newsagent's own transport or taken to various island towns and villages by local carriers. From 4:30 p.m. on every Friday, the newspapers are on sale to the general public, and eager advertisers await their reply. This story has a happy ending, as a sale has been made, confirming the truth of the saying, "It pays to advertise."